Ship tube bearing faults at second special survey. By Dr. Yanis Margaronis. During the second tail shaft withdrawal for inspection about 10 years in operation, many times the shafting bearing indicates faults, especially the aft tube bearing and the intermediate bearing as well. Two are the most common faults. 1. Detach a significant part of white metal, mainly unbonded from parent steel metal, and some melted due to excess surface pressure when the bearing reaction is over the classification society limits for bearing surface pressure. 3. Scanning the aft bonding in color scale: red no bonded and melted, and blue accepted bonded. The misalignment creates a high load on the bearing and surface pressure. The alignment has to take in mind the shaft deformation in dry dock, and jack up in only the floating condition has verified the bearing reactions. 2. A lot of peripheral deep lines with caves of melted white metal and deteriorate parent steel metal parts as well. The shells of intermediate bearings can be mapped to the faults in detail with the new edge technology deep photogrammetric method on white metal. This type of fault causes a movement of a shafting part with clear of purities oil or a mixture of oil and a part of water. If purity of higher hardness than with metal can operate as a cutting tool. The contact area between the shaft and white metal became clear by the ultraviolet lamp, and the defect area and depth as well. But the majority of cases have a cause moved part due to soft footing with the metal part of the hull. Freezing zones: cleats loss of tightening and pad deformation to recuse the teaching pad areas. In the simulation, you can see how an intermediate bearing base moved creates a peak of surface pressure and unbound parts of white metals. The detection of intermediate bearing has not been easy because due to the intermediate shaft weight, the movement is not detected at the dock. The strain gauge method is the most reliable one to give the exact shafting position both up down and port to STBD. The jack-up test not only at vertical direction. Bearing reactions but at port STBD gives a clear picture of intermediate bearing movement measured by the difference in the bearing clearances. The cause of the movement of the intermediate bearing is the holding bolts connect the intermediate bearing with the steel hull. The bolts have loose in the operation and may don't tighten correctly, and the bolts material loses its properties, is created a soft footing effect. The bolts replacement with the new bolts as specified by the maker is the best action. In some cases, the loss of joint between the bearing base and the steel hull deformed the metal pads underneath, and to recover the flat side of the wedge has machining. The bolt replacement with the new bolts as specified by the maker is the best action. The symptoms that superintendent engineer or technical manager worry about the shafting are: ship shafting system indications for further investigation. 1. Main engine deflection at the aft cylinder at the starting value and the end ones have different values. 2. The oil analysis of tube and slash or intermediate bearing has high values of iron or lead and the color becomes dark. Earlier detection avoids the stern tube bearing replacement. Thanks for watching. The end.